We welcome all of our visitors today and appreciate your participation. If you need to have personal conversations, please step outside. Also, if you have cell phones, we would ask you to put them on silent during today's meeting. Clerk of the board, actually Deputy Clerk of the board today, please call roll.
Commissioner Roll.
Present.
Commissioner Wilson. Here. Commissioner Ross.
Here. With the quorum present, I call to order this meeting of the Elbert County Board of County Commissioners, convening this 26th day of October 2016 at 9:32 a.m. This morning's invocation will be given by Pastor Ken Nedling of Calvary Chapel, Elizabeth. Are you here?
I am.
Okay, yes, sir. And then follow that, if Mr. Rick Morgan will please lead us in the pledge.
Father, first of all, I just want to thank you for the land that we live in, for this beautiful county. I just pray your blessings upon everyone here today. And Father, your word tells us that it's you that puts civil governments into position for your purposes. And so on that basis, Father, I ask you today to grant these commissioners judgment, discernment, and wisdom, knowing that not only do they serve the people of Elbert County, but they also stand as a steward for you. Father, we just, again, thank you for all that you've done for us. Amen. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Commissioners, we have before us today's agenda. Do we have any changes to the agenda proposed?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I would like to make a motion, and I believe this is an appropriate motion, to pull one of the items from the study session, which is part of the agenda. I would make a motion to remove the discussion of the role of the Water Advisory Committee. Would like to have more time to prepare for that, and also to make sure that all the members of the Water Advisory Committee can be available for that discussion.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passes.
Mr. Chairman, I'd like to ask or make a motion to move the consent agenda, the MOU concerning data confidential, to the new business agenda so that we can discuss it for public understanding.
Second. Any discussion? That would clarify that would remove item D from the consent agenda and place it as item E on the new business agenda. All in favor? Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Motion passes.
I have one more. Let me see. Bear with me for just a moment. Were you yeah, thank you. I wrote down. Would like to make a motion to move the item F under consent agenda, the letter of support for the Ag Prairie Conservation Legacy, to the new business agenda 2 for the same purpose of public understanding and discussion.
Okay, all in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. That becomes item F on the new business agenda. Okay. Chair moves to take item E from the consent agenda, Power Technologies, and place that as item G on new business. Motion's been seconded. Any discussion? All in favor, aye.
Aye.
So Tyler Technologies becomes item G on the new business. All right, so there are no other changes. I would entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Second? Mr. Wilcox seconds. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Now, with the consent agenda having been amended, may I have a motion to accept the consent agenda as now presented? Oh, I'm sorry, I always forget this portion. Is there any correspondence? Okay. With that in mind, I entertain a motion to accept the consent agenda as amended.
So moved.
Second? Second. I beat you to it that time. All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Motion passes. So we move on to awards and recognition. Are there any of those today? Elected officials, department heads, staff reports. Seeing no takers on that, we'll move along to public comment. Public comment is a time when any citizen may bring forth items of interest or concern. During this time, each individual will have 3 minutes to present views on county matters. In the interest of time, please have your comments prepared for presentation, as each person will be allowed one opportunity to approach the podium. Please keep your comments to a 3-minute maximum. No formal action will be taken on these items during this time due to open meeting provision. However, the items may be placed on a future posted agenda if action is required. If you have comments on a regular agenda item, please hold your comments until that item is up for consideration. The public comment portion of the BOCC meeting is not to be used for political or campaign purposes. Comments and questions should be limited to matters of current county affairs and business. When you approach the podium, please identify yourself and spell your last name and give your address.
Good morning, Marlene Groves, 33-300 Ridge Road. Okay, I missed the last BOCC meeting because I was in Tennessee. I did watch the video. I will tell you I was shocked at the mean-spirited attack of a citizen proposal. It's discouraging to have elected officials and department managers speak negatively of citizens and their proposals. It is further inappropriate for the 3 commissioners to allow that when the citizen is not present. I encourage you in the future to stop that, re-evaluate it, figure out when you can put it on agenda, when the person can be there. We need positive interaction. Citizens, elected officials, that was it. I'm discouraged. Thank you.
Is there any additional public comment? As I said before, we can reserve comment on specific agenda items when they come up.
Victoria Elmer, 1227 Coronado Road. I move that we set up this room every time we have a BOCC meeting so that we don't have to have a delay. Citizens are here, everybody's time is valuable. That's what I would like to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Item A under new business. There is no old business today that I'm aware of. Elbert County Trustee Quarterly Report. Rick Pettit, Elbert County Treasurer and Trustee.
Good morning, Commissioners and everyone in the room. Rick Pettit, Elbert County Public Trustee, presenting the quarterly report to be accepted by the Commissioners. And basically, same report as the last couple of, or every quarter shows my expenses and income for the quarter. And then also shows, the excess money that will be transferred to my Fund 35 that at the end of the year, any excess money will be transferred to the general fund. But the biggest thing, looking at it for foreclosures through the January through September of 2015, we had 26 new foreclosures, and this year through September we've got 37. So the foreclosures are going up slightly, about a quarter percent or 25% or 33% from last year. But the sales that we've had is 19 versus 13, so the actual sales have gone down, and the properties that we've deeded have gone from 19 to 12. There are withdrawals are approximately the same, 21, 22. And looking at releases last year for the third quarter, 2015, we had 567. This year we've got 585. So the releases are about the same, and that is an indication of properties being sold and refinances. So to me, it indicates that activity is about the same as it was last year. Any questions on the Public Trustee report?
Chair will entertain a motion to accept the quarterly Public Trustee report as presented.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Motion passed. Thank you. Okay, item B under new business, agreement for consulting services with Forsman and Associates. Water Advisory Committee Representative Rick Morgan and Forsman Representative presenting.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Rick Morgan from County Road 82 South to Elbert, also a member of the Water Advisory Committee, as you point out. Thank you, Mr. Chair, Commissioners, elected officials, county staff, ladies and gentlemen of the press, and members of the public. Thank you very much for being here today and taking time out of your busy schedule. I know you may not have come to hear this particular issue, but I'm very pleased that you have had an opportunity to hear about this issue. We're talking today about a $137,000 contract for a study in Elbert County of the long-term sustainability of our water supplies and also the comprehensive development of policy options and identification of time-critical thresholds with regard to those policies to meet future water needs here in Elbert County. Just to be very clear, we're talking about $140,000, which includes $120,000 from the Colorado Water Conservation Board of grant money, with a $20,000 match from Elbert County. And the Commissioner Rowland and Commissioner Ross were both very instrumental and vital in securing this funding as we moved down this long trail, which started back in 2013. Just a couple words about the funding and where we are today. In April of 2016, the Colorado Supreme Court had a decision with regards to tax laws governing how the severance tax was calculated. And the upshot of that decision is that the mining interest who normally provide funding under the severance tax got major new deductions, resulting in a drop in the amount of severance tax. That's important to us today because the monies that we depend on for the Colorado Water Conservation Board come out of the Water Supply Reserve account, which is funded by the severance tax. So as the severance tax has taken a nosedive, the monies that were available for funding water projects across Colorado have also faced a severe challenge. from 2015 at $7 million to 2016 at $5 million, just under $5 million. Projected revenues next year are about $3.5 million. So the funding that's been on the shelf for some time now, for a variety of reasons, is not as secure as we might hope, and the prospect of gaining new funding in the out years to fund additional water monitoring projects and so forth is going to be much more difficult and much harder fought as we move forward. So with that notion in mind, first of all, that the funding that we already have that's on the shelf is not as secure as we might hope, and that the difficulties of securing new funding are going to be very significant. The best way forward at this point in time is to commit to funding that we already have and hopefully pave the way for new funding in the out years as we look for more funding to support water monitoring projects into the out years. What the commissioners have in front of you is the amended contract, which came before you once before in June of this year. Let me tell you what's new about the contract, and you've heard this before, there's no changes from your previous inputs, but let me just review those. What's new about this contract are the changes are all shown in blue in your drafts. First of all, there's a new timeline at page 17 of your amended contract. We've shrunk the overall project from 12 months to 10 months, and that provides for a completion of the project by the 31st of August of 2017, and would also remove the requirement for any follow-on second extension requirement to CWCB with regard to the funding. And needless to say, as we shrink that project to a 10-month time frame, the provision of data becomes more important in a timely fashion. So there's also a provision in there that for data to flow to Forsgren, who's the consultant in this particular issue, within a 10-day time frame. So that is inserted in there with regards to timely data production. There's a couple places, and I take responsibility for this, in the new draft where it should have said client instead of county, and I apologize for that, and those have been corrected in your draft. Also, we've inserted the county's new boilerplate language, which was not available in June. We now have a standard insurance clause that has been inserted back on page 27. Let me emphasize a few points with regards to this amended contract, which are not necessarily new, but they bear pointing out as we go forward. First of all subcontractors must be identified at this juncture in this process. And you have those in front of you on page 18. Those contractors are McRae Water Engineering, who will be involved mostly in the analysis of the existing water supply, but will also have a role to play with regards to future water supply, cost-benefit analysis, and policy development areas. And responding to a question that has been asked by one of the committee, by the chair actually in the past, that comprises of just slightly less than 6% of the total contract amount. And secondly, we have another subcontractor, the only two subcontractors, is called Leadership Beyond, and they will be supporting the three workshops for the commissioners, stakeholders, and interested parties. And those, of course, are all public meetings. And I just point out in passing that all the stakeholders will be involved in that process, quite intimately in that process, will be identified by the commissioners as we move forward. Any changes, any modifications, any additions to the contract must be approved by the commissioners in advance in writing as part of the contract at page 34. All notices under the contract must be made to the BOCC. Looking at the timeline at page 17, I want to talk a little bit about the flow of information coming back to the commissioners as to how the project is going as we move down this 10-month time frame. So the consultant will be providing monthly invoices with invoices and expenses to county staff so that you'll have a chance to see exactly what's been done in each of those 10-month segments. Every 10 weeks, there's a requirement for the county staff to provide a report to you as the commissioners as to what's the status of the project and how is it going, and that'll be compiled, of course, by the county staff. At the midpoint, at the 5-month point through the 10-month project, the consultant will come in and give you a report, a detailed report on how it's going, how the particular milestones are being met, and how the data flow is working. It gives you an understanding of how that process is working. And that's also, of course, footnoted at the far end with by the 31st of August, you'll get a chance to take a look at the final report. Before that final report is compiled, you'll have a chance to see the draft final report, our draft study report, and provide input to that. As that draft study report is compiled, there will be input from yourselves, from anybody that you direct, whether it's stakeholders, interested parties, and also the public meetings that are part of that process will also be an opportunity for members of the public to inject their input into that same study as well. So I didn't mention it before, there are 3 public meetings that are mandated in the contract as workshops, and as well as the mid-project report. I would ask the board today to execute the contract and issue the notice to proceed. The timeline that you have in front of you is presumed that the notice to proceed will be issued not later than the 1st of November, which is next Tuesday from today. Can I answer any questions, please?
Yes, Mr. Morgan, and thank you very much, you and the other 2 members of the Water Advisory Committee for having helped steer this contract and this project through some twists and turns, and appreciate that very much. You did make, and this may be just minor detail, but you said on the 2 places in the contract where it said client and should have said county. Is it county to client? Or is it county being the Board of County Commissioners?
If I said it that way, I apologize. It's the other way around.
Yeah, it's the other way around.
In the June contract, there are places where we said county, and it should have read client.
Correct.
The client is defined as the Board of County Commissioners. So there are 2 major parts of the June presentation where that had been corrected. The 3rd part was corrected before you did.
That's all.
Mr. Morgan, if I could direct you to page 4, item C. Client acknowledges that the work product was created and offered by consultant and agrees that it will not attack the title of consultant to any other work product. I assume you meant the word attach, not attack. Is that correct?
No, it's correct as it stands, sir. That would mean that the consultant would not challenge, perhaps is another word that could be used there, will not challenge the title of consultant. Essentially what's being described there is there are 2 broad areas that the consultant would be working on. One is the analysis that occurs, and the other is the collection of data that occurs. The data comes from the county, of course, that belongs to the county by and large, or the particular components that maybe a water district data and so forth. That's outside that. But if the consultant comes up with a mechanism or a process to do that analysis, that process belongs to the consultant. So if they have a whiz-bang approach to go ahead and use that data and come up with an answer that helps you with the policy definition and so forth, that mechanism is the creation and is owned by the consultant. And this basically says that the county commissioners, the Board of County Commissioners, will not challenge that intellectual property that belongs to the consultant. Now, the data obviously belongs to the county commissioner. The product that comes out of that process, the end report, that certainly belongs to the Board of County Commissioners. But that creative mechanism, which we're referring to as work product, that belongs to the consultant.
Okay, furthering throughout the agreement, and this is something I emphasized when we talked about ownership of the intellectual property. Clearly the county is contemplating contracting with a consultant to produce information on which this and future boards may make policy decisions and so forth. That seems to contradict. Who owns the work product from this study?
The work product, as I just described it, is owned by the consultant. They own that work product. They own the mechanism that they generate to address the analysis. They own that part of it. When that work product produces an outcome, in this case, the final report for the Elbert County Water Supply Study, that has been transferred to the Board of County Commissioners, and you own that end result. The specific mechanism, the analytical process that may be involved in that, still belongs to the consultant.
It seems as though the definition of work product is kind of the issue here. So basically, if the contractor had a proprietary computer program, software, for instance, that crunched numbers, that is their work product, that proprietary software. But the resulting report that comes out of that work product, along with the other mechanisms that they have to generate the study itself, sitting on the shelf in the nice blue binder, that belongs to us. So that is not what you're referring to as work product. Work product is the mechanism that they use to create the final report.
Precisely so.
Well, I tend to still think that there's a little bit of a clarification that would be called for somewhere in this agreement. It indicates all modeling, study, and so forth be the property of the county, unless otherwise released in writing to other third parties. So I won't belabor the point. I'll simply just move on to another item that still confuses me. Still on page 4.
Mr. Chair, before you move on from that point, can I just draw your attention to the language in the middle of paragraph C? If I understand correctly, the question is, what does the county get at the end of the process? What is delivered to the county? So that for that purpose, the second sentence in paragraph C that starts off further, the consultant agrees that the client shall have ownership of the Elbert County Rural Water Supply Study upon delivery. So that's exactly what the Board of County Commissioners, to be specific, will receive in that process. And the components of what that's going to be are laid out in detail at the bottom of page 7 in study objectives 1 through 6, which are taken verbatim from the original grant application, where you ably represented our interests with the CWCD. So that's exactly what's going to be delivered, and ownership is unquestionably conveyed to the BOCC by the middle of paragraph C.
Okay.
I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. Thank you for explaining that. Can you further explain towards the top of page 4 that consultant is hereby granted a royalty fee, perpetual license to use, reproduce, copy, and distribute the work product for itself, either as needed in connection with the project contemplated under this agreement, that would be the water supply study, or as needed for reference and information related to use, occupancy, maintenance of the completed project, being on client's license. So, can you explain the royalty fee and perpetual license to use and reproduce?
Absolutely. Let me stay with Commissioner Rowland's example of the software model because it's particularly appropriate in this context. Let's suppose that the consultant comes up with a software model that allows for the analysis of the amount of water in the aquifers of the Denver Basin under Elbert County. The data, variously from the well monitoring project and other areas like that, are provided by the county or from other sources that go into that model and output an answer, go into the Elbert County Rural Water Supply Study, and that becomes you have ownership of that end product. But the mechanism, this software model that we just talked about, that belongs to the consultant. So that if some other county that also depends on Denver Basin water has a similar question, that's their model to take. It's their intellectual property, and it's their royalty license to take with them and use that somewhere else. That model, that mechanism, does not become the property of the county, the Board of County Commissioners. That remains exclusively because it's the intellectual property of the consultant. It's their baby, if you will.
Okay, so they're at their pleasure to reproduce and sell, subsequently sell the modeling characteristics and so forth in the study.
I would rephrase that slightly, sir, and that is they have the right to benefit from that model that they've developed, which, by the way, very likely has long preceded its use for the benefit of Elbert County and will probably also long post-date its application in the Elbert County environment.
Are we in any way as a county precluded from utilizing some of that?
I'm not sure I understand the question, sir.
If we want to follow on with additional study work and so forth, that information and data is not going to be available to us to use, just simply the final product.
I would think that would be the subject of some future contract.
Okay. All right, well, if you're saying that this the proper usage of the word attack rather than attach, that just caught my eye. I've never seen that in the contract.
Thanks.
Commissioners, do you have anything?
No.
Okay. Chair would request a motion with regard to this contract for the Elbert County Rural Water Supply Study to also include in that motion the consultant's name, that being Fordford and Associates, and that the contract being referred to, since there's been many drafts, be referred to as that contract which is consolidated October 21st, which is when we received this latest version of it, Monday, 2016.
Mr. Chairman, I move that the Board of County Commissioners for Elbert County approve the agreement for consulting services with Fosner's Associated Incorporated, contract draft currently dated consolidated October 21st, 2016, and approve that contract today.
Motion's been made and seconded. Comments?
I have one. Initially, we went through this. Greg, thank you very much for pointing out all the changes, because that covered all, I think, all the concerns that we all brought to you. And one of the things I had was that comment came to me that the Board of County Commissioners weren't as involved as they should have been in some of these contracts, and based on input from people now, we are almost solely involved. Okay, to some degree, that was a little concerning for me, given the relationship that we have. Now, with that said, thought through this, and I think based on what I've seen through working through this contract, I think the three of us really truly can complete this process, because I think we all have the best intentions of getting this completed in mind. And truly, that's kind of the comment I want to.
And I agree with Commissioner Wilcox, and I just think that for clarification and for maybe public assurance, or even talking to my fellow two county commissioners, we are currently looking at, based upon the funding mechanisms and the funding challenges given the severances, reduction of the severances, we were basically looking at having 10.5 months of what we originally hoped to be a 12-month period of time to complete some of these tasks. And that makes it a little more challenging, but I think everybody agrees and committed to that. It does present a bit of concern, as Mr. Wilcox shared, and I think so too, that whenever you're dealing with the three-legged stool of the Board of County Commissioners versus a single point of contact and direction to be able to have the authority to make decisions that need to be made quickly, that creates an additional challenge. But it's going to take a commitment, and I think this board, sitting here before you today, has a challenge and has a responsibility in the next 2 months to do our very, very best to use that structure to keep this thing moving quickly forward so we can hand it off to the new board in January and where they'll be able to do the same. It doesn't preclude either board from delegating and assigning tasks to staff to complete some of this work, which may become just practically necessary as we go through the operational, day-to-day operations of the Board of County Commissioners and the needs of this study. But I think we are as in a good a position to do that now as we've ever been, and I certainly commit to doing my very best in the remaining 2 months to make sure this is prepared and teed up for the next board of January.
Okay, if there's no objection, and this is reflecting a comment that was made in a previous meeting, and also what I said earlier about public comment, is there any objection to having public comment to this particular agenda item at this time?
I think it's a significant issue. I think it goes in
I think our protocol allows for public comment on individual items.
Sure.
Please, Commissioner, we're going to entertain some public comment on this item. Thank you, Mr. Moore.
Thank you.
Susan Schick, 4122 Down West Drive, Elizabeth. Before I begin my public comment in my 3-minute time frame, I have a question with regards to item 10 under the general contract provisions under subcontracts, paragraph B. It says the consultant may not subcontract services in excess of 30% of the contract price to subcontractors or consultants without the client's prior written approval. I'm just curious as to why that statement is in there and where the 30% number comes from. I don't know, Rick, can you answer that?
If I might just offer up, generally speaking, if you have a subcontractor who's got more than 30% of the work, maybe they shouldn't be a subcontractor at all. They ought to be a primary. So this is built into this general contract provision. And you heard me earlier point out the percentage of the subcontracted work already, that less than 6%. So this is to make sure that you're dealing with the right party in the subcontracting process. And it doesn't necessarily apply specifically. These are general contract provisions. If one of the subcontractors are more than 30%, then we ought to be looking at whether they should not be a primary.
Thank you. I would think that that number is high. I see it as a way for someone to come in on this contract unbeknownst to the Board of County Commissioners. And they become in the 29% you would know about. And I think that number ought to be moved down to something like 3%, not 30%. That's just my comment. And I'll let you guys figure that out. So my public comment time starts now. I would first like to thank the members of the WAC and Rick Morgan as an ex officio member for all their work and their recent success in educating the public about the water issues facing the state and the county through their monthly WAC meetings at the Elizabeth Library, and also County Citizen Jill Duvall for providing minutes for those meetings on several social media outlets. I also appreciate the county's efforts to address some of the water issues through the well monitoring study with the USGS. However, I have concerns with the water study proposal from Forsgren, primarily because of Mr. Koger's placement on the WAC by a former commissioner. Mr. Koger's participation on the WAC for several years provided his company with a clear advantage over other companies who provided proposals for consideration by the county. In my opinion, it is bad form to allow company representatives a seat at the table and then to allow them to compete for county and state funding. I believe this type of conduct may open the county to lawsuits from companies who were not afforded the same advantage of having a representative developing a long-term relationship with the folks who ultimately made the award recommendation for the awards to the BOCC. I have no problems with the scoring and rating methodology used by the selection committee in this instance. I have a problem with a single commissioner pre-selecting the preferred contractor, seating them at the table with the government, and then having the county set the table for the selection of that contractor. In my opinion, this was not a fair, open competition. I am uncomfortable with the conduct, with the continued risks the county takes with my tax dollars by engaging in this type of practice. It is my hope that the BOCC will table this decision today until after the November 8th election, when 3 new commissioners can judge this and make the decisions they will have to live with. I acknowledge Mr. Morgan's concerns about the county losing this state grant. I do. Perhaps a lesson will be learned and the county can then implement a more sound business strategy. Finally, when the WAC was revitalized in 2013, records indicate that there was a working relationship with the county planning department, namely CBS. I believe that is the proper department to be working with the WAC, not the county manager. Water issues potentially impact land usage and should come under the planning department umbrella, particularly now with the upcoming rewrite of the county master plan. Again, I would like to reiterate that my concerns are not with the WAC members, not with Rick Morgan as an ex officio. I think they did a great job with what they were handed. I have great respect for the way they did this. I have a problem with county management. Thanks.
Donna Dreyer Ross, D-R-E-Y-E-R, 38510 Ridge Road, Agate. In my career, before I retired, I did software development for a Fortune 500 company. I also worked with black box calculations for determining stepwise regression and so forth. And I think this contract should include the philosophy or the basic proponents of their black box, even though you can't see the code. You need to understand what the code is trying to do and to produce to you, even though you would not own the code that produces the end result. That becomes the work product of the county. Thank you.
Any other public comment? Mr. Lauer.
Gary Lauer, 12405 County Road 134, Kiowa. Make a simple comment. Any risk that is perpetrated today jeopardizing this water supply plan study will be a huge disservice to the people of Delaware County. This is needed, and if it doesn't get done, then people have to ask themselves, what was their real purpose in trying to forestall this study getting off the ground, hopefully November 1st. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Commissioner Rowland and Commissioner Wilcox have both spoken to the issue, and I still have my comments to make, given the motion that's on the table. We're closing public comment. However, I didn't get my comments in prior to that, so I'm going to go ahead and do them now. Motion is still on the as was pointed out, I've been personally involved with the idea and the activity of applying for this grant. And the application itself, as well as the contract we have with the Colorado Water Conservation Board, is very specific to 6 tasks. And that's reflected in this contract. It's worth noting that this is, I believe, the 4th version, 4th and hopefully final version of this contract. And I appreciate, first of all, the involvement of the volunteers on the Water Advisory Committee is beyond commendable. They've worked tirelessly, probably at some of their own expense at some points in time. Certainly donated a lot of time and effort, and understood the spirit and intent of doing this study to provide the time horizons and critical thresholds for decision makers' activity. I was rather disturbed by the first few versions of this, and in one case, a misinterpretation of how the $20,000 match by the county was to be used. But backing up a little bit, as I'm almost at the end of my term, I'll reflect back on the folks that elected me into this office. And it was a considerable margin by which the citizens elected me. And kind of polling folks, the principal reason why they elected me was not because of my good looks or charm, but basically because they felt I was honest and trustworthy, that I wouldn't betray their trust, and I would not be influenced by special interests or any other item other than the public interest and what's expressed to me by my constituents. I also have to admit to somewhat of a bias, although I represent all 3 districts in the county. The lion's share of the land mass in Elbert County, as well as the underlying water, is in District 3, and most of my friends, neighbors, and relatives are in agriculture, dependent entirely upon availability of not only deep water, but alluvial water and so forth. So their multi-generational operations are an important consideration in this sort of study. My first desire with respect to this contract, because I didn't believe it needed to be 30 or 40 pages long, the contract that we have with the state of Colorado to protect their interests, very specific about the items of the study, those 6 specific points, and would have rather had that item be an exhibit to the contract, as well as a stipulation that the contract would not exceed either in scope or money in any way the contract that we have with the state. That would keep it quite simple and above any suspicion with regard to altering the nature of the agreement. I'm not pointing out anything that's not publicly known here. There have been attempts to, for lack of a better word, subvert the intent and spirit of this towards special interest goals. I'm extremely grateful to Mr. Morgan for hearing me out on my concerns with regard to structuring the contract in such a way that it is as tight as we seem to be able to make it today without going to a not to exceed scenario. He worked very diligently in terms of tightening up this contract. However, I have to consider the entire thing in its totality and how we arrived at this point today. I still believe that the water supply plan is a very much needed study. I think it's going to take those that are going to be part of the public officials, will be watched closely by the state as we're using a great deal of their money. But nonetheless, parts of the process raise some questions, and this has nothing to do with the behavior of the Water Advisory Committee. Let me make that perfectly clear. I thank and applaud them for all their hard work. It goes more to behavior within the county government, we'll put it that way. So that it placed a bit of a cloud over the issue. And at one point, I offered a possible solution with regard to clearing that doubt or cloud away from this whole issue. And that was to just simply rebid this. This was about 6 or 8 months ago. And that would have solved the entire problem. However, I couldn't get any traction at the moment that I suggested that. Subsequently, we had a commissioner resign. So that apparently is not on the table for consideration. So at the end of the day, as a commissioner, we're responsible for our own decisions. We each have to go home and live with our decisions. And I learned early on in this process that I really did not like to get back to my house and say, you know what, I kind of regret what I on that today. Even if it was a minor issue of not any great consequence, I take all the votes that I make seriously. That being said, it's entirely likely that this contract is going to be executed today and go forward, and it would be my intention to participate fully in my obligation to this contract and to the end result of providing good, solid forecast information about the longevity of our groundwater, potential resources as they might be available in the future. But without having 100% confidence in the process that was followed, I'm going to dissent on this vote. I hope I made myself clear that I support the idea of the study. I think that the contract is about as tight as we're going to get it today. And with that being said, there's no other comment from other commissioners. I'll move to call a question. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. Question has been called. All in favor?
Calling the question, aye.
All in favor of calling the question? Aye.
Aye.
Okay. Question's been called. All in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay. Clerk, would you please do a roll call vote?
Commissioner Rowlands,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Commissioner Ross,
Nay. Very well. Thank you very much. Motion passes. The next item is item C, approval of engagement of Reuben Brown for auditing services. I believe Ed Damon will present.
Good morning, Commissioners. Ed Damon, County Manager. In front of you today for your consideration is approval of an auditing firm for Elbert County. As you know, we've currently under contract with Pike Bailey to perform our auditing services, an independent auditor, which we're required to do anyway. They've been in our program for 5 years approximately, and served us through some really tough times, helped us improve and so forth. It was time to go out to bid. It was time to put together an RFP for these type of services. We went out to bid, requested RFPs on it, and received 4 quotes for professional services for auditing in the county. After review of the proposal, staff interviewed two of the consultants we felt were most qualified to perform our services. They were Reuben Brown and Ike Bailey, our current auditor. And after the interviews, the interview panel determined that Reuben Brown was suitable to perform the same services that we currently have, and also maybe provide some additional assistance in other areas. So with that, I will address any questions you have. Go from there. It's about a $60,000 savings, $68,000 savings for overall auditing services.
Well, I move that we accept the, approve the engagement of Reuben Brown for the auditing services.
Second?
Motion's been made, seconded, discussion.
I think, just real quickly, hands off to staff, and they put a lot of work into this. We've certainly come a long, long way, and our audits, excuse me, I'm sorry, it's so loud. In the last 2 years have been on time, and it's reflected in the improvement in our financial situation. IBA's performance done well, but I think one of the standard operating procedures that I'm aware of in most businesses and industry is every now and then you want to change your side and get a fresh look at things, and maintains the integrity of the standard operating procedures for changing from time to time. I think Bailey is also, pretty much acknowledged they're very busy, and that's good for them. Business is good. But this allows us not only a significant reduction for the same level of service from a firm that I know is one of the top firms in the industry, but it gives us an opportunity to take a fresh look and gain more credibility in our audits than we would have before. So appreciate your leadership in this, Ed, and Kyrie and Joanna and all those people that have been involved in this, Kelly, in making this happen. Just another step forward in making this county more business-like and moving us into the 21st century.
Commissioner Wilcox, do you have any comments?
No, just thank you. Thank you for all the work.
Okay, seem to have lost my place. Have we had a motion?
Yes, the motion's on.
Motion's on the
table. Yes, sir.
Okay, and with regard to discussion on my part, I was unaware that we put out an RFP for a change in, potential change in auditing firms. I received a spreadsheet of the 4 bidders on Monday, and certainly pointed out at that time that there's a wide range of costs here, and a low of around $27,000 to a high of $131,000. And Reuben Brown falling in between there. I have not had a chance to research and check references on Reuben Brown. However, I will say about Ike Bailey that it's been one of the more comforting things throughout my experience as county commissioner to have a very, very intensely interested and involved auditing firm submitting a very comprehensive report each year, working in conjunction with county staff to bring us in line with our statutory deadline and so forth. I couldn't be more pleased with the work that Ike Bailey has done, as well as their persistence in perhaps enforcing is not the right word, but following up and seeing to it that their stated deficiencies in our operation are addressed and corrected, and the consistency has been of great comfort to me. I would think that the next board would have the opportunity to have that experience, and certainly if they were dissatisfied to make a change. Is there any other discussion from the board? Hearing none, all in favor of the motion?
Aye.
Aye.
Nay. Roll call vote, please.
Commissioner Rowland,
Aye.
Commissioner Wilcox,
Aye.
Commissioner Ross,
Nay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Item D came about as a somewhat of a response to the public comment item. Preparation of court reporter transcript of the November 18, 2015 BOCC meeting. It's been brought to my attention that this was on another agenda this past summer. My recollection of it is that the commissioner making the motion withdrew her motion. I also heard that we actually had a vote that indicated a no on proceeding with the having the court reporter transcribe the audio tape of that particular meeting. It's made it back onto the agenda again, so the chair will move for the Board of County Commissioners of Elbert County to engage a qualified court reporter transcriber to make a written transcription of the November 18, 2015 BOCC meeting. Is there a second? No second. Motion dies. Next item on the agenda is the
Could I make a,
Can we make a comment?
yes, you can. Not quite. I researched this and, we do a lot of meetings and a lot of conversations, and it's always clear in our memories. So I went back and checked. On June 15th, this issue was addressed in a 9-minute segment. Anybody can get the audio. I haven't. I've listened to it several times in the last 24 hours. And you can believe my interpretation of it, or my transcription of it, if you will. No pun intended here. On the meeting at 1:33, 1 hour 33 minutes into the meeting on June 15th, Board of County Commissioners meeting with Commissioner Ross, Dorr, and Rowland. A motion was made from the agenda item to engage a court reporter or somebody who does that work. I don't know what you call them, transcriber, professional, but to transcribe the audio of the meeting in November. I can't remember, was it November 18th, 2015, when it was held right here. And that motion was made by Commissioner Dorr, seconded by Commissioner Ross. We then opened up for, I can't remember who was the chair, but you were me, but it doesn't matter. It was opened up for discussion, and I expressed in that audio the same concerns I have today. That number one, we've never transcribed minutes or meeting audios or meetings, period. Minutes are intended to be a summation or a summary or point by point of the meeting, but the actual official record for somebody who wants the intimate detail of the meeting would be the audio, which is available to anybody and everybody. So that conversation ensued. At that point, the clerk and recorder, Dallas Schroeder, got up to the podium at my request to talk about how that would happen and how that would work and what the standard procedure was. And again, we've never transcribed for one or two particular requests. I believe, and still to this very day, that the use of public funds in any amount are fiduciarily required to be for the betterment of the entire county. I'm still not sure the exact purpose, but let me say this. In that meeting, Commissioner Dorr, after hearing the description of transcriptions and our past practices and all those arguments, changed and made a motion to make the audio recording the official record and to have it posted on the county website, available to the citizens who wanted to listen to it themselves. Now, that's an MP3, I believe. I'm not a tech person, but anybody could take that and have it transcribed themselves if they wanted to from the recording and download it onto a flash drive, same as I did last night. And so that motion then became part of the discussion. At that point, Commissioner Ross withdrew the original motion to transcribe, and a vote was taken by the 3 commissioners to place that on the county website. And it was unanimous, all 3 of us voted to do that, and that was done. So there is an official record. It's here, it's on the meeting, it's clear, it's audible. Each of the points I've just making, I think, can be verified if you listen to it. So that was decided back on June 15th. And I still believe that the audio is the official record. It is available in its entire clarity and description of the meeting on the 18th for anybody who wants it and who needs it. But I don't believe all 29,000 citizens in the county are asking for it. And I believe it would be a misuse of county taxpayer money to meet that for an individual request or a small group of people who, I still don't understand why they need it. It doesn't really matter. I don't care to find out. But I do believe that the information is very available just because it's not in black and white typed on a sheet of paper. Actually, I think that would be less effective. That's just my personal opinion. So I have.
Yeah, we're getting a little stray from our normal process. Since the motion was made and died for lack of a second, there was really no call. But to be consistent with our public comment disclaimer, which I read in every meeting, I would offer certainly a rebuttal or a response from Commissioner Wilcox if he wishes to speak, since Commissioner Rowland had a platform for that, or then turn it over to public comment so we may proceed with the rest of the agenda. Is there any public comment on this agenda item?
You decided not to vote.
Let's let Commissioner Wilcox go ahead and address his concerns, and then we'll give the public a chance to talk.
Well, what I did, I looked at how the county said, what I was trying to determine is what we told someone we would do. That's what it came down to. I wanted to find out what specifically we told someone we were going to do. And when it came down to it, it took a lot to find out. I worked all day yesterday trying to figure it out. I ended up going to minutes, notes, and I ended up finally with an audio. And after I went through this audio, it came up that there was a vote of the board. All 3, a unanimous vote that stated there was going to be those minutes, so that audio was going to suffice as the transcript. So I felt at that point, okay, I finally got my answer now. And that's confirmed. And that was the 3. That was Larry, Kelly, and Rob. So I felt as though, as a county, we satisfied what we stated we were going to do, because I felt that to be the point, the position we were as a county. So then I went into it a little further. I looked at all the different things. We've never provided a transcript to everyone. Okay, we've never done that in the past. The next thing I looked at is the audio was available and it was out there for everybody to view. So essentially it is there. The second thing I took, the BOCC voted unanimously. And then the next thing I looked at is, should we spend $600? Because that was the quotes we got. Is that good use of taxpayer funds to just formalize an audio? And I thought, I can't see that. I just don't feel right about that. The next thing that's out there is we've got a number of people that have done a portion of work on this. That we could get some input from some folks on that. And then, more importantly, I thought about, okay, well, after all that's done, what's the most important thing we do need to publish? Is that the formal minutes of the meeting. And they're there. And they never got approved. So I kind of thought, well, I'm not worried as much about the transcript, I'm more worried about getting the formal minutes up there and getting it done even if they're unapproved. So that was what led me to my decision is that, you know, at this point, I think we satisfied what the county said to do, and I think we're looking at it conservatively based on don't want to spend $600. I don't think that's appropriate for a one-time situation. So that's what led me to my decision.
Okay, I'll make this suggestion then. I think it's healthy from time to time to address public comment when it's possible in the right form. And I was going through my notes, and sure enough, there is a written set of minutes pertaining to this particular meeting, and I will place that the approval of those minutes on the next on the agenda coming up, as written, with the caveat that the audio is available for reference as well. It appears that's what I'm going to do today, so I will endeavor to put those minutes, as well as quite a number of other sets of minutes, on agendas in the future to get us caught up in current with our obligation to provide minutes for our meetings. I think we've all had a chance to say something. Ms. Rose?
Marlene Rose, 3300 Ridge Road again. I'm really discouraged at that vote. I feel like I had two commissioners vote for a lack of transparency. I feel like I have two commissioners vote against citizens. Who cares if only one citizen wants it? What if 100 want it? This is information. This is information that should be available. It also would have been very nice if in those two board meetings that those minutes would have been available for the citizens. It is clear that they are hidden when there is information that they don't want shared. Who is they? Well, you know, I don't know that this has to stop. If you're afraid of the information, hide it. If you're not, release it. Release it in its entirety and send it down the road and be done with it. That's my comment.
Susan Schick, 4122 Down West Drive. I've read this before, I'm going to read it again, but there are some new people here. These are the two statutes I could find that pertain to the clerk's duties. Colorado Revised Statute 30-10-309, Clerk of the Board Duties. It is the general duty of the Clerk of the Board of County Commissioners to record in a book to be provided for that purpose all proceedings of the board. The second one is Colorado Revised Statute 24-6-402, para D, subparagraph I. This is the open meetings law. Also, it states, minutes of any meeting of a state public body shall be taken and promptly recorded, and such records shall be open to the public for inspection. To me, as the clerk is an elected official, the County Board of Commissioners may not have much power over making this happen. I see this as a citizen's effort to make this happen. And if our board is failing, if our clerk is failing his duties, it may be that he's insufficient, incapable, or just unwilling, in which case a recall may be required. I don't believe there's any statute that precludes the Board of County Commissioners from hiring their own clerk to the board to accomplish this statute if our clerk refuses to do it. As of today, looking at yesterday's Elbert County website, under the clerk's list of minutes that he's published, he is delinquent on 12 sets of minutes dating back to April. April 13th, 18th, and 27th, no minutes. June 15th and 22nd, no minutes. July, no 7th or 12th. August, 3rd and 10th missing. No September 14th, and he's behind on 2 in October. So I would recommend that the Board of County Commissioners hire their own clerk to accomplish this. Thanks.
Any other public comment before we close out this item?
Yeah, I got a comment.
Mr. Harris.
Bill Harris, 808 Caribou, Seminole, Colorado. I've heard of kicking a dead dog in this and kicking a can down the road concerning all this issue that took place in November. You got the audio. These people can't hear it. They need to borrow my hearing aids. I don't see what the problem is, and I think the gentlemen are doing a good job. And I constantly hear a term transparency from a group that doesn't even understand what transparency is. They do things very subtly, they're not honest, and I'm tired of listening to that kind of stuff. I think you gentlemen are doing a good job. And you know, you can't be in your regular office up there, so we're down here, you didn't have enough chairs out. I think we have more important things to take care of in this county than worry about things of that nature. So I think our county is doing a fairly good job with the money that they've got, and so keep up the good work. Thanks, guys.
I can make a request at this point. Mr. Amon, I'm going to need the paperwork that I handed you before the meeting with respect to the conservation easement. If you could bring that back to me, I appreciate it. I gave him my own copy. Thank you. Okay. Now, next item on the agenda is the memorandum of understanding. The public comment has been closed on the issue of the court reporter transfer. Luke? All right. Item E, okay, it's okay. Oftentimes we have a chance to correct mistakes. Sometimes we do, sometimes we don't. But this is a memorandum of understanding for control of confidential data. Mr. Pettit, is he here? Yep. Oh, yeah. I believe Commissioner Wilcox had a need for clarification on this item, and that's why we moved it to the new business. And following your discussion, then we can have a motion and proceed with the item.
What the memorandum of understanding regards is control of confidential information that is gotten from the Colorado Department of Revenue's website that has to do with sales tax information. And this is an agreement that the state puts out that limits, the control. Essentially, one person is appointed to get onto that website, and that is the only person, and then it's up to me to control that information. And basically, it says that the only information can be used for administrative purposes or for enforcement of sales tax laws. It doesn't, the way I read it, doesn't give the right for me to just public information, that it's controlled whatever information I get off of that website. And at this point, that's the only information that I know of that the county can get as far as sales tax for the different entities that do pay sales tax in the county. And this agreement has to be signed every year, appointing someone to have access to that website. And that's what this agreement is about.
And that makes you responsible for maintaining that confidentiality, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Because I'm the one has in the past has been appointed to have access to that website.
And you're the only one in the county, right?
Yes.
That has it. Okay. So you kind of hit the point on number 4. It says the information obtained pursuant to this agreement shall be used only for the purpose of administration and enforcement of the sales and/or use tax laws of the undersigned jurisdiction in the state of Colorado. That means we have to kind of guard that information, correct? That's what you're...
Yes.
Okay. All right. That was what I was kind of sure.
If I could just expand on that a little bit for understanding, and basically that's a very clearly, narrowly defined limited authority given to you, even though you're the only one by the statute for the release of any of that information. You have to adhere to that, use it only for that narrow purpose, as Commissioner Bocc just stated. But it would, these are written in statute, these restrictions, and any access to that information beyond your use for the purposes that he just stated would have to really come from the state of Colorado if anybody wanted to seek that information. You can't release that.
Right. You know, that's what this memorandum is for the control of the confidential data.
And we do this every year. This is an annual event. And we
Yes.
approve this. We've done this 3 times.
Do they audit us on this? Or...
I've never been audited, so I don't know.
With that, Chair moves that the Board of County Commissioners approve memorandum of understanding for control of confidential data, and pursuant to that, naming Richard Pettit as the responsible party.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
That motion passes. Okay, I just had it. Okay, we have an item F regarding a letter that I received regarding a conservation easement. And these are not unusual. We've given letters of support in the past. Conservation easements typically
We move 3 items.
I had E as the MOU, F as the conservation easement, and G as the power technology.
Okay. We have one to follow. I guess I had the order wrong.
Even a blind squirrel finds enough once in a while. So anyway, what a lot of large landholders do in order to preserve their property and their ability to continue in agricultural pursuits while maintaining open space, I've always found to be a commendable and laudable goal. And I've received a letter from the chairman of the Colorado County Association Land Trust. The Colorado County Agricultural Land Trust is working with 3 Elbert County ranches on an important land conservation project. They're requesting a letter of support from the Elbert County Commissioners for a grant they are seeking from GOCO, which is Great Outdoors Colorado. This is a really important project. I've attached a draft letter that can be put on Elbert County letterhead and then signed by you, Robert, and Danny. Could you review and see if this can be accomplished within the next week or so? The letter can then be mailed directly back to the land trust and gives us details on how to do that. Please let me know if this is possible. Elbert County Commissioners have done this in the past for projects near Agate, Purdy family, and in Simla, the Berger's family. And in case it matters, I am the current chair of the Colorado County Ag Land Trust. So that everybody knows what we're contemplating here. This is addressed to Mr. Stanstra of the Great Outdoors Colorado Trust Fund. And with regard to their grant application, Elbert County is pleased to write to you in support of the Colorado Cattlemen's Agricultural Land Trust and the Trust of Public Lands application for funding the Agate Prairie Conservation Legacy Project. The Agate Prairie Conservation Legacy Project is made up of 3 ranches, namely the Basin, Stack, Lazy 3, and Wilson Creek Ranch, located in the Agate area. Completion of the Agate Prairie Conservation Legacy Project will safeguard important agricultural land, scenic views, and wildlife habitat, and preserve the intact nature of this part of Bocc County. Proposed conservation easement will ensure that the ranching legacy of the 3 Elbert County families continue into the future, and that approximately 22,670 acres of viable ag land will forever be protected. Elbert County fully supports the preservation of the county's rich ag heritage and western heritage, and is proud to support this initiative. Further, the Elbert County Commissioners have long supported landowners' property rights under the United States and Colorado Constitutions. Commissioners also support landowners' right to choose to sell or donate a conservation easement on their own property. We recognize that Great Outdoors Colorado funding can be a significant benefit to local communities. Elbert County strongly encourages GOCO to support this worthwhile conservation project by approving the initiative grant application submitted by CSAL. GOCO Protect Initiative grant is necessary for the completion of the 3 projects that make up the Agate Prairie Conservation Legacy Project. Thank you for giving Elbert County the opportunity to comment on this important conservation initiative. So the chair moves that the board approve the submission of a letter of support regarding the Agate Prairie Conservation Agency.
Second.
Okay. Motion's been made, seconded. Are there any comments or questions? Okay. All in favor? Aye. Aye. Motion passes. We'll all sign that here before we leave. And I move, just for further clarification, because I just received this recently, and I think there were people that had questions about it. A company named Tyler Technologies, and contemplating some subscription license and services agreements, two separate ones. One in the amount of about $82,000 and one in the amount of $47,000. Mr. Ammon, or give us a background and summary of these contracts.
Tyler Technologies is a proprietary type software program that's utilized by the assessor's office, treasurer's office, community development, clerk and recorder. And it's a software program that provides software support, or the contract provides software support. It's a 5-year contract. The contract increase for the next term of this is approximately $20,000 overall. It's about $100,000 a year, $114,000. It's required. It's proprietary. We're not in a position where we can alter or change current services that are provided.
Mr. Ingram, just a clarification, and this is really hard to read. Okay, we're talking about annual fees as opposed to, you mentioned a 5-year agreement, but these amounts of what looks to be about $66,000 and $49,000.
65 and 45. Permanent. 65 and 45.
Okay, those are the annual amounts?
And it's an annual. We have an opt-out each year.
Okay, so that's the total cost each year for 5 years?
Correct.
Okay, so it's not a small contract in its totality at all.
But it's subject to appropriations annually.
Okay, and my feeling on this has been, whenever each month when I see these bills from Tyler Technologies, I kind of cringe because what I've been told is we're sort of down to this software. But you have indicated there may be a way out of being under the thumb of Tyler. Is that?
In the future, it's not in the near future, but in the future, there are some options we can look at as we continue to build our infrastructure and our staff and so forth. There's other options we can look at.
Okay,
What would happen if we didn't have it tomorrow?
Operations will stop.
Crash and burn.
On the treasurer side for Tyler, there's very few options out there for software to do this, and most of the counties that I know that are now transitioning to a new software from software that's no longer being supplied are going to Tyler. I know that most of them are not happy with the cost, but there's very few other options out there to go to at this point. And basically, the assessor's portion of Tyler, when they put the information in on the assessor side, then that automatically rolls over to the treasurer's side, and it allows us to print our tax bills and stuff based on the assessors. If we had two different programs for the assessor and the treasurer, then we would be looking at trying to get bridge programs and things like that that would move from one side to the other.
Kind of like what we were faced with the 13, we had to bridge.
Right, yeah, you know, we've done a bridge program from Tyler to the financial software upstairs so that we can download our information and they can then balance and everything. But talking to people at the conferences and stuff, there's not many other options out there. And like I said, I know Douglas County a year and a half ago went to Tyler. And a bunch of the other smaller counties are now going to Tyler.
All right, thank you.
Thank you for the explanation.
Yeah.
Morning, Commissioners. Kyle Leonard, Director of CDS. For our department, Tyler is 3 products. We use Tyler Stamp, we use Tyler Recorder, and Tyler Assessor. So we access all of those things. They're different, and they're databases. And I can give you an example. When we were flooded down in the basement, and then we took over your office and the office next to it, we had no access to any of our paper. Our paper file folders were in pods, and they were not packed in ways that you could go in and pull out a folder quite very easily. Without access to those digital records, we would have simply shut down. We can data mine, we can find old resolutions. It's amazing how much has been archived and is housed in these softwares. Currently, even our contract planning firm is able to access some of this database stuff so they can work on land use applications. It's a profoundly important tool for us, and I can tell you, much to probably IT chagrin, I have all 3 of them open almost all day, every day. It really is the backbone for us. Thanks.
Well, I'm very glad to hear that it's a useful, beneficial tool. And thank you for
It's kind of the connector. It's kind of the product that connects all of these different operations and tasks together and allows multiple users to view and utilize for day-to-day operations.
The proceeding involved in unpaid, unsolicited testimonials. I'm just kidding. It sounds like a tool that we need to use for the time being. So the chair moves to approve Tyler Technologies subscription agreements for the clerk and recorder and assessor's offices.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor, aye?
Aye.
Motion passes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Any land use issues? introduce? Attorney of the board? Chair moves to adjourn. All in favor?
Aye. We're going to break for a work study session afterwards.
We're adjourned at
11:07.
11:07. Thank you very much for attending. While I've got your attention for a moment here, previous commitments have caused me to not be able to attend today's study session. I recognize that item number 2 has been removed from that agenda. So if there are any questions for me with regard to any of these topics, I'm always available for discussion. Thank you very much for coming today.
10 minutes.